Hey scholars, welcome to chapter 20, where this week we're looking at water pollution and how, as humans, we play a major role in polluting our waters. Last week we looked at air. This time now we're looking at water pollution. So let's take a look at our case study first, and it has to do the area of the Puget Sound and specifically Lake Washington, which Seattle kind of is in between both of those water bodies. And basically the gist of this is that for a long time, sewage from Seattle was dumped into Lake Washington. In 1955, Edmondson, a scientist, figured out that Dr. W.T. Edmondson of the University of Washington figured out there was presence of cyanobacteria or blue-green algae in the lake. And that was very dangerous, and that is mostly caused by feces and fecal matter, and they're living off of that. And so that was another big thing. Also, the role of phosphorus, he figured out, was increasing that cyanobacteria population as well. So what Edmondson and his colleagues decided to do was really inform the public, and through public pressure led to the cleanup of the lake by diverting the water that was coming from the sewage treatment plants. Instead of going into Lake Washington, they pushed it more towards the Puget Sound, which obviously you can see in this image is a much larger body of water. It's also governed by tides, and it would have a lot more movement for those affluents. Or for those effluents, I mean. So when we have that going on, we see that Puget Sound is much better suited to deal with a larger amount of pollution as far as those phosphorus and cyanobacteria are concerned. Well, the new pollution challenges came with the fact that after looking at this, and as Seattle steadily grew within the last decades, that now Puget Sound is obviously seeing some problems with cyanobacteria and increases in pollution due to those the release of those particles from the sewage treatment plants. So that's kind of the whole case in Lake Washington. Let's take a look at what causes and effects are happening within water pollution. The first one we're looking at is what is water pollution in general, and it's any chemical, biological, or physical change in the quality of the water that could possibly or potentially harm living organisms that rely on that water source. There's two different types. There's a point source, which is specifically located at one spot. It's easy to identify and monitor because you know where it's coming from. It's easy to regulate, well, easier to regulate than another type that we're going to talk about in a second. And examples would be factories, sewage treatment plants, underground mines, and oil tankers. So you know what's causing it. You know where those are located. You can divert them or monitor them or regulate them a little bit better. Another one, which is a little bit harder to deal with, is the non-point source pollution. It's very broad. It's a diffused area. It's really difficult to identify a specific part and control it. And it's very expensive to clean up. The best example would be runoff from croplands. You don't know which croplands produce the most runoff. You don't know where. I mean, you know where it's coming from, but it's hard to really stop. Livestock feedlots, the excretion by those, and then washing into the rivers. Logged forests, urban streets, parking lots, golf courses, all of those can be called non-point source pollution. Hard to identify all those different areas and then regulate those. Also, agricultural activities have led to the cause of water pollution. If you don't irrigate properly, you can lead to sediment eroding from the lands and getting into your waterways. Fertilizers and pesticides with runoff going in there. Bacteria from livestock and food processing waste can get pushed into your water ecosystem as well, and that can cause some problems. Industrial facilities, organic and inorganic chemicals that are used in the production of the products can get into your waterways as well, and also mining, especially surface mining, that can lead to runoff into the waterways too. Other pollution sources, parking lots, and man-made materials like plastics. I don't know how many times after a hurricane I've walked the beaches of North Carolina and have seen plastic pieces all over the place that have been washed up or brought up, and not even after a hurricane, even on a regular basis, you can see plastic pieces washing up on our shorelines. Climate changes due to global warming. Some areas might get more rain than previously would, which would bring more chemicals from crops into the environment as well. And this is just a non-point source example of unprotected farmland flowing into the streams, causing it to be really, really murky and cloudy, which is bad for organisms. And this would be a point source pollution. This is a type of chemical. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's not blood, but it's making it very, very polluted. And it's a point source coming from one exact spot. All right, so water pollutants have harmful effects. Also, infectious disease organisms can contaminate drinking water as well. And the World Health Organization, or the WHO, say that 3 million people die every year, most under the age of 5, due to infectious diseases caused by contaminated drinking water. And so that's kind of a scary stat for you. You can see the types of effects, major water pollutants and their sources, infectious diseases. There's some bacteria, viruses, protists, human animal waste as well the major sources. Oxygen-demanding waste, biodegradable animal waste, plant debris, sewage, animal feedlots, pulp mills, things like that are coming from those are the sources of that. Plant nutrients, just nitrates, phosphates coming from sewage, animal waste, inorganic fertilizers. Organic chemicals, oil, gasoline, plastics, pesticides, mostly coming from industry, farms, and households, all the way down to even thermal, mostly caused by electrical power plants or industrial power plants, putting out a little bit of hot water, and that can cause some major problems to an ecosystem as well. All right, let's look at our science-focused testing for water pollutants. There are a variety of tests to determine water quality, from pH, dissolved oxygen, E. coli or coliform bacteria, between nitrates, phosphates. I mean, you can look at all sorts of water chemistry. Coliform bacteria is a big one to look for. It's called E. coli. If it's at significant levels, it can cause major damage to people who drink it. Also, level of dissolved oxygen can tell you what kind of organisms would live in your aquatic ecosystem as well. And then you can go into nitrates, phosphates, sulfurs, looking at chemical analysis too. Other ways to test for water pollutant are indicator species like cattails and mussels that heavily rely on the quality of water to survive in their ecosystem. We've also seen genetically engineered and also natural bacteria and yeast that glow in the presence of a particular toxin like coliform or E. coli, and that will let us know that, oh wow, this is really, really polluted. Other also color and turbidity of the water are kind of a dead giveaway as well. If the water is very cloudy and has a weird color to it, definitely could be some signs of some pollution as well. This is one quality as measured as dissolved oxygen, DO. That's how many oxygen molecules are present per parts per million. That's what ppm stands for in a given amount of water at a certain temperature. Because remember, it has to be a certain temperature because the colder the water, the more gas it can hold. The warmer the water, the less gas it can hold. So water quality, it's really good if you got 8 to 9 dissolved oxygen parts per million at 20 degrees Celsius. If it's lower than that, as the lower it goes, the more polluted it can get, and the more toxic or anoxic it can be for organisms. So that's kind of the gist of water pollution. We're going to take a look next at what are the major water pollution problems in streams and lakes. Then we'll come back to oceans a little bit later. See you guys next time for 22.